Hey YouTube, Brock here. So I want to talk about something. I want to talk about cancel culture, but I want to talk about it in a different way. Not the extreme screaming and yelling outside of a business or posting on someone's thing because they said something offensive. I don't want to talk about that one. I want to talk about the more subtle aspect of it, which I think we actually engage in a lot more than we might think. Um, and and it's much more subtle. It takes people away from our cause or what we're trying to accomplish. So Christ says, "For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged, and with what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you again." And just like he says, it's all about how it's okay to judge people. We just need to remember how we judge them comes back to us. So we all know in this life that we can't always understand what everyone's going through. I don't know what it's like to be you. You don't know what it's like to be me. And sometimes I don't know what it's like to be me either. So, but if we think of the issues, it always comes down to issues. I think that creates tribalism when we break everything down into minute issues. Sometimes we think that's helping, but I think sometimes that creates this tribalistic tendency to latch on to a small issue. So if we think about an issue like a fire, okay, and it's a fire where everyone come in and feel the heat of the fire, and that's how we understand the issue, is we gather around and we understand it. But in the cancel culture, and I'm really just using that as for fluidity purposes, but in the cancel culture, we push people away from the fire. They don't get to discuss the issue because they're offensive, or let's put this in a physical aspect, they smell bad. We don't want them standing next to us, or they weren't born the right way, or they didn't grow up the right way. They didn't grow up in the right place. They didn't experience the same thing. They don't speak the same way we speak. All these things that we think are important to the issue, but we're pushing people away because we don't think that they will bring something to the issue. I know this is very simplistic, but sometimes that person we push away is the fire, is the one that we need to gather around in order to truly understand the issue. I believe the Lord has more trouble fixing problems out of ignorance, caused by ignorance, than he does anything else. Here's why I want to also say it doesn't. That's not always the case. Let me break that down a little bit. Silence is not violence. I think that is such a hardline, dangerous approach when we say silence is violence. Sometimes we just don't know what to say. Sometimes we just don't understand the issue yet, and speaking would be an ignorant thing to do. Sometimes we're not comfortable speaking about certain things. If that is not clear in this current political climate, then you need to open your eyes. There's so many things that people are afraid to talk about because of cancel culture. The more vocal part of it, but silence is not violence. It's just sometimes it just is silence, and sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's good to just let things kind of work out. But like I say, in my church, I've seen it, and I've seen it very subtly, and we do it in a way that is so offensive if you really want to break it down. So let's say a new neighbor moves in, and you're trying to be a good person. You go take them cookies, you go hang out with them, and you invite them over for a barbecue. Then you go over to their house, and all of a sudden you find out that they drink. And I have seen this. I've seen this not very recently, and it really bothers me that people do this. But what happens is that you're like, oh no, I can't hang out. You guys drink. What you do is you just fade away. You don't talk to them anymore. And it creates that vacuum in the relationship where it's like, hey, why doesn't so-and-so want to hang out with us anymore? What did we do? What happened? And I think that's that is cancel culture in every sense. You may not be yelling and screaming. You just said that I can't accept who you are, so I'm just gonna walk away from it. And I know, and I'm just being a hardliner here and just giving the extreme sides of it. And sometimes it's not the case. I mean, I know some people deal with things different ways, and again, it's just like Christ says. If you're going to deal with it that way, you got to accept that you're going to have to deal with. You are going to be judged the same way. But also, it's up to all of us to use that long measuring stick for everybody. The reason why I think cancel culture has existed a lot longer than we think it has is because of this subtle aspect of it. And it's not any better to do it one way or the other. But what it does is it takes away our ability to understand each other and create that empathy for each other's situations. Sometimes it's not always a bad situation. You know, it's like I don't struggle with depression. So it's harder for me to understand what someone's going through that's depressed. I try to be very careful to not be that. When I was younger, I was probably more of a like just suck it up princess, but I've tried much harder as I got older to understand that there is really an issue in someone's mind with that. Like it really is something. I don't know if tangible is the word, but that is an issue, and I need to be more empathetic to their situation. And for me to say "suck it up, princess" is like canceling them and saying that's not okay for you to feel that way, which is not the right approach. So let me give you another example of something that I've changed on. I don't think I've been like bad in this, but how I approach it now is much different. So on the issue of homosexuality, I've never necessarily had a problem with it when I was younger. And that, I don't know if that's the case. It's hard for me to kind of put my mind back to where I was there. But I was never a confrontational person, and I never liked pushing people away, unless they're like mean or something. You know, that's kind of sounds normal. But as I've grown older, I've been able to talk to a lot more people, have friends who are homosexual, and I think that's where it's important too, is to have those friends with all those different aspects of life. Because when you have a friend that may not align with your political or religious views, it opens you up to such a broader understanding, because you can say, oh yeah, I really like this person. They're such a good person, but they do this. So is it a problem that they do this, or is it a problem that I see it this way? So this is where I am. So I think I've opened up a little bit to where I think it was more for me with homosexuality. I just didn't know how to handle it. You know, it was kind of like, because I don't have those same emotions, so I don't know what they're going through. And it's like, so I was probably more silent in a lot of situations. I had my ways of thinking and whatnot, and little holes that I dig myself into. But I don't know if I was mean about that to people I knew, and if I was, I apologize. I never. Again, it's that amorphic part of our minds that we try and get into a better place. But now I'm much more open to that and understand that they have something that I can't understand, and I don't want to be that person that cancels, that creates that cancel anymore. I mean, I don't want them to cancel me. Because I have my beliefs, and I want us to be able to discuss and persuade each other on different things. So I just in conclusion, it's really hard to go into every situation with a big ruler and say that, because I think if we use a small ruler, we're setting ourselves up to be disappointed. But if we use a big ruler and know that we can't measure everything in somebody with a look, with a with a single conversation or a visit. It has to be done over a length of time. But I think if we do this, but if we use a big ruler and are open to that, it really broadens friendships. I mean, political discussions are hard enough. Religious discussions sometimes are even harder, especially when you might be on two sides of an aisle. But I think that idea of cancel culture, just pulling away from the conversation, or even just shutting down a conversation, that they're the same thing. They happen in different time frames. And I hope we can not do that anymore, because Christ was canceled in the ultimate way. You know, when he was born in Jerusalem, there were a lot of different factions of Judaism, just in Jerusalem alone. And when he came in, he was teaching, and he says, look, and everyone's like, no, you're trying to change it. Some people thought he was a revolutionary. And he's like, look, I am the law of Moses. Everything that you think that you know, I created it. And I am the epitome of that law. And he's like, he wasn't a revolutionary. He was a bring it back to what it was. And they ultimately crucified him for it. And it was really sad because, I mean, he won that battle, but it was sad because he never canceled them. He never stepped away from people. That's how we emulate Christ, is by being less canceling, to be silent sometimes, or to say that maybe we don't understand, or that, you know what, I don't understand right now, but I think we can get somewhere with that. Or we should be careful we're not doing that. We're not canceling people because and canceling them in a subtle way, and especially, and even if they hanging out with them is awkward, or maybe you have to step out of your shell to do it. I am a very quiet person. Sometimes it's really hard for me to start up conversations. I'm not, that's not my forte. So it's, but I see the benefit in it. So I have to actually do it sometimes. So anyways, hope you enjoy the video. Sorry for the length of it. I didn't mean to get so long. It's like my 20th take on it, but I just think that's a good thing for us to do as a society, is listen and not be mean. My mom always said, be nice. So do it. Thanks.